The lawyer clears his throat and reads from the document. To my granddaughter Jennifer, I leave the sum of $5. My parents burst out laughing. Actual, genuine laughter in a law office, 2 days after my grandmother's funeral. My mother nudges my father. $5. That's perfect. That's exactly what she deserves. My brother smirks from across the table. The lawyer looks uncomfortable but continues reading the rest of the will, detailing how my brother gets the house, how my parents get the savings, how various cousins get jewelry and furniture, and all the meaningful possessions my grandmother spent 87 years accumulating. And I get $5. I sit there, my face burning, trying not to cry in front of these people who are supposed to be my family, trying to understand why my grandmother, the one person I thought actually loved me, would do this. Then the lawyer says, however, there is one more document, and everything changes. My name is Jennifer. I'm 31 years old, and until 2 days ago, I thought my grandmother was the only person in my family who saw me as more than an afterthought, more than the disappointing daughter who couldn't measure up to her golden boy brother. I was wrong. She saw me better than I knew. But let me back up, because that moment in the lawyer's office was the culmination of 31 years of being second place in a family that only had room for one winner. My brother Kevin is 3 years older than me. He was the first grandchild, the first boy after 2 generations of mostly girls in our family. And from the moment he was born, he could do no wrong. My parents worshipped him. My grandmother doted on him. He was smart, athletic, charming, everything a family could want in a son. Then I came along. The spare. The backup. The daughter they got because they were trying for another boy. I know this because I heard my mother say it once when she thought I was asleep. We were hoping for another son. But Jennifer's fine. She's fine. That was the word that defined my childhood. Not special, not wonderful. Fine. Kevin played football. I played soccer. His games were family events. Everyone came, cheered, took photos. My games were attended by whichever parent drew the short straw, and they usually spent the time on their phone. Kevin got straight A's. So did I. His report cards went on the fridge with magnets and celebration. Mine got a good job and got filed away. Kevin got into a prestigious state university on a partial football scholarship. My parents threw him a huge graduation party, paid for his remaining tuition, bought him a car. I got into the same university with a full academic scholarship. My parents took me to dinner at Applebee's and told me they were glad the scholarship covered everything because they'd already stretched their budget helping Kevin. The pattern was so consistent, so relentless, that I started to believe what it implied. I was worth less. My achievements meant less. My presence mattered less. But my grandmother saw it differently. Grandma Dorothy was my father's mother. She was a sharp, independent woman who'd been widowed young and raised 3 kids on a secretary's salary. She didn't suffer fools, didn't do fake sentiment, and didn't pretend to love people she didn't, which is why it meant so much that she seemed to love me. When I was a kid, she'd pick me up every other Saturday. Just me, not Kevin. We'd go to the library, to the park, to little cafes where she'd let me order whatever I wanted, and we'd talk. Really talk. Not the surface-level check-ins my parents did. She asked about my books, my friends, my thoughts. She listened like what I said mattered. She remembered details about my life that my own parents forgot. When I was 12 and didn't make the select soccer team I'd been hoping for, my parents said, "Well, maybe next year. Kevin's football banquet is tonight, so get ready to go." Grandma Dorothy showed up at our house an hour later with ice cream and a book about famous women athletes. We sat in the backyard, and she told me about all the times she'd failed at things when she was young, and how failure was just information, not judgment. "Your parents don't always know how to see you, Jenny," she said. She was the only one who called me Jenny. "They're so focused on Kevin being the star that they forget you're shining too. But I see you. Don't ever forget that." I never did forget. Those words carried me through high school, through college, through every moment when I felt invisible in my own family. When I graduated college, Grandma Dorothy came to the ceremony, even though my parents almost didn't. Kevin had a work thing that same weekend that they thought they should attend instead. Grandma Dorothy told them flatly that if they missed my graduation, she'd never forgive them. They came, begrudgingly, left right after. Grandma Dorothy took me to dinner and gave me a savings bond she'd been holding for years. "This is for you," she said, "for being exactly who you are, for working hard even when nobody's watching, for being kind even when you're treated unfairly. I'm so proud of you, Jenny." I cried into my pasta primavera. After college, I moved across the country for a job in Boston. Good salary, good company, room for growth. My parents said it was nice, but seemed worried about Kevin, who'd just gotten laid off and was moving back home temporarily. Kevin's temporarily turned into 3 years. 3 years of my parents supporting a grown man who couldn't seem to keep a job, couldn't seem to manage his money, couldn't seem to take responsibility for his own life. I called Grandma Dorothy every week. I told her about my job, my apartment, the city I was learning to love. She told me about her garden, her book club, the neighbor's cat that kept trying to steal her bird seed. "Are your parents proud of you?" she asked once. "I don't know," I admitted. "They don't really ask about work. Mostly they talk about Kevin and how hard things are for him right now. Hard things he brought on himself by quitting 3 jobs in 2 years," she said dryly. "You're thriving, Jenny, whether they see it or not." When I got promoted to senior manager at 28, I called home excited to share the news. My mother answered. "That's wonderful, dear," she said distractedly. "Listen, can I call you back? Kevin just got a job interview, and I'm helping him prepare." She didn't call back. I waited 2 days, then called Grandma Dorothy instead. She squealed, actually squealed, and told me she was taking me to dinner the next time I visited to celebrate properly. That was Grandma Dorothy. She showed up, she celebrated, she saw me. Which is why, when she died 3 weeks ago at age 87, I was devastated. Not just sad, devastated. She was the only person in my family who'd consistently made me feel valued. She was my champion, my supporter, my proof that I wasn't crazy for feeling overlooked by my parents. She'd had a stroke. Quick, relatively painless according to the doctors. She was in the hospital for 2 days, mostly unconscious. I flew home immediately, sat by her bed, held her hand. My parents came once. Kevin didn't come at all. He had a thing, they said vaguely. When she died, my mother cried and said, "Well, at least she lived a long life." I cried because I'd lost the one person who really knew me. The funeral was 3 days later. Small, dignified, exactly what she would have wanted. I gave a eulogy about how she'd been a light in my life, how she'd taught me that worth isn't determined by how much attention you get, but by who you are when nobody's watching. My parents seemed confused by the speech. "You were very close to her," my mother said afterward. She was just realizing this. "Yes," I said simply. "I was." Kevin didn't come to the funeral either. "Work emergency," he texted. My parents made excuses for him to relatives who asked. The will reading was scheduled for 2 days after the funeral. The lawyer, Mr. Patterson, asked that all immediate family attend. That meant my parents, Kevin, and me, plus a few cousins who lived locally. I didn't expect to inherit anything substantial. Grandma Dorothy's house was valuable. She'd lived in it for 50 years, and the neighborhood had gotten expensive. She had savings from a lifetime of careful money management, but there were a lot of people to divide it among, and I'd never cared about her money anyway. I just wanted to keep one or two small things that reminded me of her. Maybe that book she gave me when I was 12. Maybe the teacup we'd always used for afternoon tea during my visits. We gathered in Mr. Patterson's office on a gray Wednesday morning. The office was nice. Wood paneling, leather chairs, that particular smell of old paper and furniture polish that makes you feel like important things happen here. My parents sat together, my mother's hand on my father's knee. Kevin sprawled in his chair like he was watching TV at home. The cousins looked appropriately somber. I sat apart from everyone, still raw with grief. Mr. Patterson began by reading some preliminary statements about Grandma Dorothy's assets. The house, valued at $480,000, savings and investments totaling around $650,000, personal property including jewelry, furniture, and collectibles. My mother's eyebrows went up. I didn't realize Mother Dorothy had that much saved. She was very prudent with her finances, Mr. Patterson said neutrally. Then he began reading the specific bequests. To my son James, he read, looking at my father. I leave my savings and investment accounts, totaling approximately $650,000, with the stipulation that this money be used to ensure a comfortable retirement for himself and his wife. My parents looked stunned, then thrilled. My mother actually gasped. Kevin sat up straighter, probably calculating his eventual inheritance from them. To my grandson Kevin, Mr. Patterson continued, I leave my house at 847 Maple Street, along with all furnishings and contents, free and clear. Kevin's face broke into a huge grin. Holy shit! Sorry, holy crap! That's... wow. My parents beamed at him. That's wonderful, sweetheart, my mother said. You can finally have some stability. The cousins got various items, jewelry, art pieces, some monetary gifts of a few $1,000s each. Then Mr. Patterson looked at me. To my granddaughter Jennifer, I leave the sum of $5. Silence. Then my mother laughed. A short, sharp bark of laughter. My father joined in, quieter but definitely amused. $5? My mother repeated. Mother Dorothy always did have a sense of humor. Kevin was grinning. Guess we know who the favorite was. I felt like I'd been punched. $5. My grandmother, who I thought loved me, who I thought saw me, who I thought was the one person in my family who valued me, she left me $5. Less than she left to the cousins who saw her maybe once a year. Less than the cost of the flowers I'd brought to her hospital bed. $5. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. The room felt too bright, too small, too full of people who were confirming what I'd always feared. I wasn't worth much, not even to the person I thought cared about me most. My mother leaned over and patted my hand. It's okay, dear. You have your good job. You don't need her money. This is better for people who actually need help. She glanced meaningfully at Kevin. I was about to stand up, to leave before I started crying, when Mr. Patterson cleared his throat. However, he said, there is one more document. He pulled out a different envelope, thicker, sealed with red wax. This is a separate letter and trust document, with specific instructions from Mrs. Dorothy Morgan. It is to be read after the will. He looked at me. It's addressed to Jennifer. Everyone turned to look at me. My mother's expression shifted from pity to confusion. Kevin stopped grinning. Mr. Patterson opened the envelope carefully and began to read. My dearest Jenny, he read in my grandmother's voice, words she'd written who knows how long ago. If you're hearing this, then I've passed on, and you've just heard that I left you $5 in my will. Mr. Patterson paused, glanced at my parents, then continued. I imagine your parents found that funny. I imagine Kevin smirked. I imagine you're sitting there right now feeling hurt and confused and wondering if I ever really cared about you at all. My throat tightened. It was like she was in the room. Let me be clear. That $5 is symbolic. It's proof that you were in my will, that you were not forgotten. But your real inheritance is in a trust that I established 15 years ago when you were 16 years old. The room went completely silent. I have watched your parents favor Kevin your entire life. I have watched them ignore your achievements, dismiss your feelings, and take you for granted, while treating your brother like he walks on water. I've watched Kevin fail upward, making mistake after mistake, while your parents cleaned up his messes and made excuses. My father's face went red. My mother's mouth was a thin line. And I've watched you, Jenny. I've watched you work hard without recognition. I've watched you succeed without celebration. I've watched you remain kind and generous, despite being treated unfairly. You are exactly the kind of person I hoped you'd become. Mr. Patterson's voice softened. He seemed moved by what he was reading. The trust I established for you has been carefully invested and managed over 15 years. It contains approximately $250,000 in cash and securities, along with my collection of first edition books, valued at roughly $75,000, and my jewelry collection, valued at approximately $125,000. I couldn't breathe. $450,000. Grandma Dorothy had left me $450,000. Additionally, Mr. Patterson continued, there is a life insurance policy with you as the sole beneficiary. The payout is $500,000. My mother made a strangled sound. In total, Jenny, your inheritance is just under $1 million. The office was so quiet, I could hear the clock ticking on the wall. Mr. Patterson kept reading. I structured it this way for a reason. I wanted your parents to reveal themselves one final time. I wanted them to laugh at you getting $5. I wanted them to show you, and everyone in that room, exactly who they are. My father stood up. This is... Mother wouldn't. Please sit down, Mr. Morgan, Mr. Patterson said firmly. I'm not finished. My father sat. Your parents will likely be angry right now. They'll feel entitled to what I gave you. They'll try to convince you to share it with Kevin, to be fair, to think of family. I'm telling you right now, don't. My mother was shaking her head. This isn't right. Mother Dorothy was clearly not in her right mind when she... Mrs. Morgan, Mr. Patterson interrupted. I can assure you that Mrs. Dorothy Morgan was completely lucid and competent when she created this trust 15 years ago, and when she updated it as recently as 6 months ago. I have multiple witnesses to her soundness of mind, including 2 physicians. This will is ironclad. He returned to reading the letter. Jenny, this money is for you, for your future, for your security, for your freedom. You've spent your whole life being told you're worth less than your brother. I'm telling you now, you're worth everything. You're the best thing this family ever produced, and you deserve every penny. Tears were streaming down my face. I didn't even try to hide them. Your parents will tell you I'm being unfair to Kevin, but Kevin is getting a $480,000 house. He'll probably sell within 2 years to pay off debt. Your father is getting $650,000 that I suspect will end up supporting Kevin anyway, whether directly or indirectly. They've all gotten enough. You're getting what you were always owed: recognition, validation, and a future built on your own terms. The letter continued with specific instructions about accessing the trust, contact information for the financial advisors who'd been managing it, and details about the insurance policy. Then, the final paragraph. I love you, Jenny. I have always been so proud of you. Not because of what you've accomplished, though your accomplishments are remarkable, but because of who you are. You're kind without being weak. You're strong without being hard. You're successful without being selfish. You are exactly the granddaughter I hoped to have. Mr. Patterson's voice was thick now. Live your life fully. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for accepting this inheritance. You earned every bit of it simply by being you. With all my love, Grandma Dorothy. He set the letter down. The room stayed silent. Then my mother exploded. This is ridiculous. She can't do this. Jenny already has a good job. She doesn't need nearly $1 million. Kevin needs help getting on his feet. Kevin is 34 years old, I said. My voice sounded strange, stronger than I expected. He's been getting on his feet for 12 years. When does it end? He's had bad luck, my father said. You've had it easier. I've had it easier? I stood up. I've had it easier? I paid my own way through college. I moved across the country alone to build a career. I've never asked you for a dime. Kevin has lived with you, rent-free, for 3 of the last 10 years. You've bailed him out of credit card debt twice. You bought him a car. You've paid his rent. You've made excuse after excuse for him. He's struggled, my mother started. No, I cut her off. He hasn't struggled. He's been enabled. There's a difference. Kevin finally spoke up. This is bullshit, Jen. You don't need that money. I could actually use it. The house alone, that could change my life. You're getting a $480,000 house free and clear, I said. How is that not changing your life? It's not enough. It's never enough with you. The words burst out of me. Nothing is ever enough. You got everything growing up, and it still wasn't enough. You get everything now, and it's still not enough. When does it end? When do you finally take responsibility for your own life? You're being selfish, my mother said coldly. No, I said. I'm being exactly what Grandma Dorothy taught me to be. I'm being someone who knows their worth. Someone who doesn't apologize for existing. Someone who won't set themselves on fire to keep other people warm. I turned to Mr. Patterson. What do I need to do to access the trust? He smiled slightly. We'll need to meet separately to review the documents and transfer everything into your name. I can meet you tomorrow if you're available. I'm available. My parents tried several more times to convince me to share the inheritance. They used guilt, anger, logic, emotional manipulation. Kevin alternated between sulking and demanding. My mother actually cried and said I was breaking her heart. I didn't budge. The next day, I met with Mr. Patterson alone. He walked me through everything: the trust, the investments, the insurance policy. He showed me financial statements going back 15 years, showing how carefully my grandmother had built this nest egg for me. She came to me when you were 16, he said. She'd just watched your parents throw Kevin a massive birthday party while barely acknowledging yours. She told me she wanted to make sure you knew you were valued, even if your family didn't show it. She never told me, I said. She wanted it to be a surprise, and I think... He paused. I think she wanted to see how your parents would react when they thought you got nothing. Call it a final test. A test they failed spectacularly. Over the next week, my parents called repeatedly. They tried everything. They said Grandma Dorothy had been manipulated. They said I was being vindictive. They said Kevin deserved more consideration. They even tried to argue that since my father had inherited $650,000, I should share my inheritance to balance things out. The logic was stunning. Kevin gets a house, my parents get over $500,000, but I'm the one who needs to share. I stopped answering their calls. I flew back to Boston and took a week off work to process everything. I met with financial advisors. I paid off my student loans, all of them, completely. I put a down payment on a condo I'd been eyeing, but thought was out of reach. I donated $50,000 to the scholarship fund at my university in my grandmother's name. And I sat with the realization that my grandmother had seen me more clearly than I'd known. She'd understood exactly what my family dynamic was. She'd known how my parents would react. And she'd given me not just money, but validation. Proof that I mattered. Proof that I was worth investing in. 3 weeks after the will reading, Kevin showed up at my apartment in Boston. I don't know how he got my address. Probably asked a cousin. He looked tired, rumpled. "Can we talk?" he asked. I almost said no, but curiosity won. I let him in. We sat in my living room, this awkward silence stretching between us. Finally, he spoke. "I sold the house," he said. "Already?" "I needed the money, debts and stuff." He looked around my apartment. "Nice place." "Thanks." More silence. Then, "Look, I know you're mad at me, at all of us. But Jen, we're family. Family is supposed to help each other. I've been helping," I said quietly. "I've been helping my whole life. I helped by not asking for anything so you could have everything. I helped by being independent so mom and dad could focus on you. I helped by working hard and not complaining when my achievements went uncelebrated because you needed the attention more." "That's not fair." "It's completely fair," I interrupted. "Kevin, you've never had to work for anything. Every time you failed, someone caught you. Every time you made a mistake, someone fixed it. You're 34, and you've never had to be responsible for your own life because mom and dad won't let you fall." He looked away. "I know I've had it easier." "Do you? Really?" I leaned forward. "Because it seems like you think you deserve more of my inheritance. More than a $480,000 house. More than a lifetime of getting everything handed to you." I just thought, we're siblings. Siblings share. Siblings also support each other, celebrate each other, see each other. My voice cracked. "When's the last time you asked about my life, Kevin? When's the last time you congratulated me on anything? When's the last time you even remembered my birthday without a Facebook reminder?" He didn't answer. Grandma Dorothy left me that money because she saw me, because she valued me, because she wanted to balance out 31 years of being invisible in my own family. I'm not sharing it. I'm not giving you any. I'm not being the backup fund for your next failure. That's harsh. It's honest. I stood up. "You can tell mom and dad I said no. Tell them I'm selfish, ungrateful, whatever you want. But I'm keeping every cent of what Grandma Dorothy left me because she wanted me to have it, because I deserve it, and because I'm finally learning to value myself as much as she valued me." Kevin left without saying goodbye. I sat in my apartment, looking out at the Boston skyline, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. The fallout continued for months. My parents stopped calling altogether after I made it clear I wasn't changing my mind. Kevin went completely radio silent. Cousins and extended family were divided. Some thought I should have shared, others thought my parents had been unfair to me for years, and this was just karma. I didn't need everyone to understand. I just needed to understand it myself. And here's what I understood. My grandmother had given me more than money. She'd given me permission to value myself. She'd given me proof that someone had always seen my worth, even when I couldn't see it myself. She'd also exposed my parents in a way that couldn't be denied or excused. By making them laugh at my $5 inheritance before revealing the truth, she'd shown everyone in that room exactly who they were. She'd made it impossible for them to claim they treated me fairly. She'd documented their favoritism in a way that couldn't be argued away. It was a gift. A painful, complicated, perfect gift. 6 months after the will reading, I got a letter from my father. An actual, physical letter, handwritten. In it, he apologized. Not a full apology. He still made excuses, still tried to justify some of their choices. But he acknowledged they'd favored Kevin. He admitted they'd taken me for granted. He said he understood why I was angry and why I'd chosen distance. He didn't ask me to share the inheritance. That, more than anything, made me think the apology might be genuine. I wrote back a short letter saying I appreciated his words and needed more time. That maybe eventually we could rebuild something, but not now. My mother never apologized. Kevin never reached out again. And honestly, I was okay with that. It's been 2 years now since Grandma Dorothy died. 2 years since that will reading. That moment when I got $5 and my world turned upside down. I'm still in Boston. I love my condo. I got promoted again at work. I've traveled. Places I always wanted to go but thought I couldn't afford. I've built a life that's entirely mine, funded by my own work and the safety net my grandmother provided. I think about her every day. I have her photo on my mantle. I use her teacups. I read her first edition books carefully, reverently, grateful for everything they represent. And I understand now what she was trying to teach me all those years. That worth isn't determined by how much attention you get from people who should love you. That you can't earn love from people who've decided you're not the priority. That sometimes the most loving thing someone can do is show you the truth, even when it's painful. My parents chose Kevin. They chose him over and over and over again for 31 years. And Grandma Dorothy chose me. She chose me quietly, behind the scenes, building me a foundation so that when I finally saw the truth about my family, I wouldn't collapse from it. She gave me $5 and $1 million worth of validation. She gave me proof that I mattered. She gave me the freedom to finally, completely, unapologetically value myself. That's worth more than any inheritance. But I'm keeping the inheritance too, because I deserve it. All of it. Every single penny. And I'm not apologizing for that anymore.